Welcome in, everyone. We are now ready for the NA side of the console open bracket. Here, getting you ready for relegations. I'm Aggro. That's Toli. We're going to have fun today.
Lots of fun.
I can feel it.
There's going to be some issues that we're going to have to be resolving before we get into the good stuff, though.
Well, yeah, we're gonna have to get to this first final here. Checo is the new black versus My Guys, and as you can see on the bracket there, just before we went live, My Guys hit the 2-0 in the semifinals. The standard, they're the veterans. That's what you expect to see them here. Guys like Transonics, Brochacho, Wolves, they're on this team. And then on the bottom side, though, the face-off between the two Checo sort of related names, Saving Private Checo and Checo is the new black. 2-1 goes to Checo is the new black. This is a team totally that finished third last week. This week, we're going to see them in the finals.
Which is very interesting now because My Guys is guaranteed to get through into the relegations. They finished first place last week, guaranteeing themselves 100 points, with Checo is the new black finishing third last week at 40 points.
Right.
And now, last week, it was Saving Private Checo that finished second at 60. So there might be a tiebreaker situation.
Yeah, My Guys, if they win this, that would force a tiebreaker between Saving Private Checo and Checo is the new black. However, Checo is the new black. They control their own destiny here. If they're able to win this set 2-0 or 2-1, that rather, against My Guys, either way, they would be the ones heading on to relegation.
That's a difficult challenge for them because you look at My Guys and the roster behind them. You know, this is a team being led by Brochacho, Wolves in the solo lane. There's just so much talent all across the board if you look at the roster of My Guys, which is going to make it so difficult here in the final best of two set here for Checo is the new black.
Definitely a lot of veterans on that side, but there's also some SCL veterans on the side of Checo is the new black. You've got Nickwood in the solo lane. You've got Reminisce as well, who came to land with Elevate. He's not playing under Reminisce. Last week he was Cuff Your E-Girl. This week he's 13 and Blessed. Yeah, stay tuned and find out what he is next week, I guess, if they're able to make it through. But we're ready for this week's picks and bans, regardless of what Reminisce gamertag is. And it's going to be, it looks like, My Guys in that first pick spot.
Do or die at this point in time for Checo is the new black. They need to figure out a strategy to really shut down the flow, I think, of My Guys. They can't let them get off to an early game start because I just feel like My Guys is just going to run away with it.
Yeah, and we saw My Guys last week weren't as clean as I think a lot of people expected them to be. It was a 3-game, it went to all 3 games up against Saving Private Checo. So there is some holes in that armor, and that's pretty clear. But like you mentioned, just so much veteran talent across the board for My Guys in basically every position. Jingwei, Zeus are the bans for My Guys. Nike and Raw for Checo is the new black. Sylvanus being the first pick here for My Guys. That's going to be going to Brochacho.
We've seen that very often recently in the past couple of weeks, especially after Worlds. Sylvanus has been a staple for the Guardian position. It's always good to have that front liner in your arsenal because of how much space you control. The sustain makes it that much easier for the tower sieges, and also maybe finding somebody out of position and pulling them into your squad.
That early game fighting just so strong with that Sylvanus. Our early game fighting on the other side as well, though. Awilix locked in for Reminisce in the jungle, and then Freya for Keji, the hunter. A little bit of a lesser known name for Checo is the new black. Awilix, an early pick here. Are you surprised to see that picked on this early?
It's going to be up against Chaotic Purpose, who's known to play a lot of aggressive junglers as well, so you might as well fight fire with fire. We know Chaotic Purpose is known to be playing more of the Thor, the Ratatasker anyway, and because you have both of those globals available to him, you can't deny him both, so you might as well go for a style that just suits you anyway.
That's true, and when My Guys going to counterpick themselves basically by locking in this Odin, or Checo is the new black rather, just understanding that Wolves loves to play this Odin in the solo lane and clearly not dissuaded by that Awilix pick. Bellona going to be the matchup there in solo. How does that work out in lane, Odin versus Bellona?
So at this point, Odin's going to be able to clear faster with the Bluestone Pennant at level 3. You get 2 points in your shield, you get a point into your jump. You're going to be able to clear those archers right away, so all you have to worry about is those melee minions after that point in time, whereas Bellona, she doesn't really full clear the wave up until like she gets 3 points in her bludgeon, and the good thing about it is the bludgeon's not going to be able to get canceled by the Odin. So once the minions are out of the equation, Bellona will win the boxing exchange.
Interesting to see what Nickwood is going to go for on that Bellona. If they do want to fight level 1, you'll see sometimes the Bellona pick up the shield bash for the AoE slow, or the Scourge to make sure the auto attacks aren't coming through, as well as giving him some sustain in that fight. Khepri and Geb going to be banned away for My Guys in the second banning phase, while Checo, they're going to focus down Transonics, Kumbhakarna and Soul taken off the board. Mr. Teep, the mid laner for Checo, is the new black. He's going to be playing this Scylla, and there's a decent amount of setup here, but they have to be coordinated because a Whoop can spell absolute disaster with a Scylla.
They need Athena Guardian here to set up the Scylla for Mr. Teep. I feel like the jungler pick for Awilix, it does a good amount of damage and it synergizes very well with the Scylla damage, but they can't really set up each other the way like an Athena would, so they need that third god to complete the puzzle.
Yeah, but if they do lock in the Athena, they would be lacking some knockups to set up for Reminisced in the jungle. Thoth, the selection for Coviiii in the mid lane for my guys, and then Chonos going to round it out. Another magical hunter selected for Transonics. Very balanced composition here for my guys. A good balance of magical and physical damage, as well as a good amount of CC between that Chonos, Thor, and Sylvanus. Remember, this is still Season 3. Thoth still has a slow and not a stun on that evade and punish, so you're gonna have to keep an eye on that. Kumbhakarna gonna be the final pick here for Saving Private Checo, or excuse me, Checo is the new black. Checo is just everywhere.
There's just too many Checos. There's apparently a shaving Checo's eyebrows team out there. Let's get some love for his eyebrows.
Can we just like talk to Michael Checo himself? But anyways, Kumbhakarna gonna round it out here. There is some CC and setup there for Scylla, not the Athena necessarily, but I've got a feeling that that Checo's gonna be looking at Sylvanus. He's the immobile member of the team.
Just remember that the way that this works out in the 3v3 composition is you're trying to really blow up the Guardians. So this is the whole strategy for Checo is the new black. Kumbhakarna does so much damage with the epic uppercut, and it's actually going to be, yes, it's going to be a Awilix starting off with the Ninja Tabby right off the bat, trying to get as much mobility, but it's going to be against the reinforced Greaves for chaotic purpose.
Wolves in a lot of trouble. He's going to take a lot of damage. Is able to jump away, root there from Kumbhakarna. Brochacho in the middle of it all, just trying to make sure his teammate gets out all right. Wolves did end up taking that leap at level 1, but that's not a bad thing. That's totally fine for him.
Especially considering the fact that he already started off with a Wrath. It's not the worst thing in the world. He's going to be able to have that escape whenever necessary in the laning phase against the aggressive Awilix Bellona combination. You want to be able to get off that escape. He's going to be able to out-clear his opposition once he is level 2 anyway, so once he gets to the laning phase with that Wrath, or it could be even an invade here.
It looks like it. Brochacho, he's here. He's got the Traveler's Shoes, whereas Kumbhakarna, he's gone for the tank boots. Wisps onto a couple members. Shell popped pretty early there from Brochacho, and as you can see, Checo's the new black understands that and just backs away. They already got a big cooldown out of the support.
And it makes sense for LayersOfLife here. Apparently he changed his name yet again to go the Reinforced Greaves to synergize well with his passive, giving him that physical power.
But Wolves is the one taking a bunch of damage. 3-man Wrath stun may have saved the life of his solo laner. Nikwid still trying to chase him out, and it looks like Wolves is going to survive. In fact, heals up to about half HP, courtesy of the Wisps from Brochacho, and this invade is going the way of my guys.
Slow and steady. The poke war heavily favoring my guys. Nobody from Checo is the new black can even contest this invade. Now, granted, the Wrath is not available now because it had to have been used defensively to save it, so they could still secure their own speed buff.
Yeah, Nikwid is going to be able to secure that with his own Wrath. Still trying to fight into the 3 members because it was Reminisced, 13 and Blessed. He had to back after all that damage. And that Wrath stun, even though it means that they couldn't get that speed buff from Wolves, was huge. He would have died without it.
And with that first blood, that would have put Checo as the new black at about a 500, 600 gold lead already before the minions had spawned. So it's very wise to prioritize your Wrath selection, whether you want to use it for the invade or for combat purposes.
Wolves again taking a lot of damage, but they just can't seem to kill that tanky solo laner. He's running away from his own tower. Finally, he's going to fall. 13 and Blessed, able to pick up that first blood. Layers almost able to clean it up with the Mjolnir's attunement, but just a little off that mark with that double tap.
That's so unfortunate because he hit level 2, but he didn't level up his shield fast enough to be able to pop it, get that extra shield health, and not be able to take that damage to get first blooded. And LayersOfLife not able to capitalize with that double tap, slightly off the mark. And on top of that, he was a little hesitant to teleport to the hammer because it would have taken maybe 2 in-hands to find that kill.
Oh, the root from Brochacho is good to send Forger Vulcan into the Sleepy Time passive, but Brochacho's going to pay for it with his life, it looks like. No, Nikwid, he needs one more cooldown. Shield Bash is going to be up soon, but Wolves is here. Mr. Teep teleports in with that Sentinel, but Brochacho, it's just been the story of quick escapes with low HP
this is still a level 2 now, Awilix, in the 2-minute mark. Not able to really capitalize on the farm. Now, did get a kill earlier on, but just not on top of her game. After that point in time, she had to go back to the fountain, get that health sustain. Now, building into the ninja tab, he gives you no extra gold for potions or sustain, which is key. So we saw the early back and a lack of farm as a result.
And even then, even once you're able to get into the jungle, you're usually used to having that sustain from Bumbas, the MP5 in the jungle, the heal from the jungle camps. But like you mentioned, when you rush that ninja tab by, you're not going to have it. And we've already seen 13 and Blessed have to back 2 times early on in this game, and that's why you see his farm definitely lacking in that area. Over in the duo lane, we got to check it out for just a moment. Transonics and Keji just kind of pushing each other around a little bit. This is the kind of the new solo lane almost. Hunters have been able to do basically their own thing for the first 10-15 minutes of the game.
You're not really going to see much action out of these magical hunters in the early game up until they get their power spikes. Freya's definitely looking for that Fatalis before she goes in, but then the Chonos is more than likely waiting for that demonic grip to increase his in-hands during the accelerate. Both of these magical hunters electing to go for the cooldown boots.
Layer is going to get a lot of damage actually on the Nikwid, but not quite enough to find the kill quite yet. And again, another jungler who's changed his name around. You mentioned it earlier on. He was previously Layers of Death unaware, then changes his name to Chaotic Purpose, and now is apparently back to Layers of Life.
You know, it's a new year, new season, it's a new Layers, you know? He sometimes has to find the yin to his yang, so now he resurrected himself. He's reborn as Layers of Life. We'll see how his attitude actually has changed, because previously in the past, he's had some issues in terms of getting along with certain people because of his talent kind of outshining a lot of his other teammates, but he's kind of let that get to his head sometimes.
Absolutely. I think that his sort of chronicle, if you will, from early last season, he comes into the scene unaware, Challenger Cup team. They come out, start really, really well in the first 2 weeks. So hold that thought. Nikwid, nice shield dash, able to get out of there from that bird bomb. It's still going to take a decent amount of damage. The ring comes down, but he still has the Eagles rally, and it's going on top of Wolves with 13 and Blessed here. He knows he can't jump away, and Nikwid loved the decision to stay and fight in that ring.
Great patience from Nikwid. He knew he wasn't in actual jeopardy because of the ultimate. Once he waited for the Odin cage, he knew he had to either use it defensively to get out right away, or because of the fact that he knew that Awilix was right around the corner, he could still bait for at ever so slight 2 to 3 seconds, take advantage of the physical power, the defenses that the Eagles rally or gives you, and then turn that 1v2 into a 2v2 into his favor.
And Nikwid was on Elevate last last season rather, really spent a lot of time in that solo lane and really developed nicely. I think he was one of the bright spots for that team that started off pretty well, but was kind of all over the place throughout the season.
And that's what you're really trying to figure out in between splits. What works out for yourself individually and what works out for you and your team as a whole. So that's why a lot of times you'll see little shakeups here and there in between splits, especially in between seasons, where there's going to be new metas created based off of new items, some god changes and redesigns as well. So a lot of these players are also figuring out themselves.
2 different styles of builds here coming out from the middle laners, Toli. You see Coviiii, he's gone for the cooldown boots right away, whereas Mr. Teep, he's gone for the Doom Orb. Little bit of an interesting choice to see the cooldown boots on Thoth. You're used to seeing the penetration boots on him. What do you think about the differences in the 2 builds?
I think it's going to benefit the Scylla here if she can get off to a good start with the Kumbhakarna, but there hasn't been much action in the mid lane to really benefit and warrant this Doom Orb to take any successful action yet. However, this gives a little bit of a safety net for Mr. Teep to build those stacks without any pressure being applied to him, still getting those stacks. And once the Kumbhakarna does make some plays in the mid lane with one epic uppercut, the crush on a monster combo could easily blow up El Brochacho.
Transonics has made the rotation. Mr. Teep, he doesn't know. He's going to have to use his purification epic uppercut. There it is, but it's final judgment from the lane. Coviiii, he's able to pick up the 2nd kill for my guys. Clean rotation there from Transonics, and that safety you were talking about, totally not there right now.
That's what happens whenever the other team is the one to start off the engagement. Had it been Forger Vulcans to get that epic uppercut onto El Brochacho, we might have seen a totally different course of action, and it could have been even Mr. Teep finding the kill.
But Transonics making the difference there as well with that rotation. Keji was sitting in lane, and he has finished off as a Fatalis. Looks like he may have just backed to finish that off, actually. And this is, like you mentioned, where you expect to see Freya to try and take these boxing fights.
And this is the point in time also that Chonos wants to take advantage of the Freya's lack of mobility, and that's why we saw Transonics make that rotation with the Accelerate, just out-rotating. Left-hand side, Goldfear being started by right-hand side, finding a kill under the tier 1 tower. Definitely worth it, I would say, for Checo is the new black. Finding getting the Gold Fury at the 7-minute mark.
And that's going to put the gold lead basically even right now. 60 is the goal that separates my guys and Checo is the new black. And if you're just joining us, Checo is the new black, placed 3rd place last week, and this time they're controlling their own destiny. Remember, for the SCL, it's only the top 2 teams that move on to relegations. My guys, they're guaranteed. They won last week. No matter what happens here, they're moving on to relegations. But Checo is the new black needs to find this set victory, or there's going to be a tiebreaker between themselves and saving Private Checo.
Yes, as long as saving Private Checo finishes 3rd place, they will get themselves a total of 100 points. Similar to Checo is the new black, they're guaranteeing themselves at least 60 points now. But Transonics able to steal away that red buff away from Keji, doing a great job, and in the mid lane though missing that pull.
Forger Vulcan get a mez out, Brochacho. He's going to take a decent chunk of damage from that Root Crush combination, but courtesy of those wisps, he's going to be full health in no time at all. We haven't really said Layers of Life's name too often ever since that first skirmish on the right-hand side. He does dunk down on the right, getting the kill on the Nickwood, but that was while Checo as New Black is doing the Gold Fury. Oh, he's going to actually use the hammer there. Surprise, Nickwood. I don't think he realized that Layers had already committed his escape.
But now onto Forger Vulcan, though. He's going to get knocked out, taking a lot of poke in return, being able to barely escape, but now he can't be able to be offensive to set up Mr. Teep in the process.
The cage is good, and Nickwood's got nowhere to go. His ultimate is down, and Layers of Life is going to put him down. That's his 2nd kill of the game, 2-0-1. For the jungler, pulled back in his wolves, immediately into the root, immediately into the crush, that Raven Shield providing some health, but not enough. Mr. Teep gets the reset. Transonics is here. He's taking a lot of damage as well.
I don't think he has enough mana for the rewind, but he doesn't really need it. Everybody wants to reset from Checo is the new black. That crush was so close to stopping the back. I don't think it would have killed him, but it definitely would have maybe scared him.
I think he was scared no matter what, even if it didn't hit him there. Keji did match the rotation from Transonics that time around, and it almost paid off big time for Checo as the new black. 4-3, read the kills for my guys in blue. Gold lead is about even right now. As far as experience goes, looks like it's slightly in favor of my guys. Yeah, about 2,000 XP, but with the late game prowess that Checo's the new black's roster has, I don't think they're worried about this XP difference.
Not at all. With the Scylla and the Freya, those are the 2 key components to Checo is the new black's success if they want to be able to win this game. Now, they've been doing a good job in terms of surviving the early game because they have to deal with the global pressure coming out of Layers of Life on the Thor. But so far, even though Nickwood has been kind of receiving the worser end of things, they at least found a goal here in the process, and they've been able to still maintain the same pace.
And Mr. Teep, even though he took that death, as soon as he finished that Dumore, basically, oh, he's going to take a lot of damage right now, actually. Transonics playing way up. Sanctuary is well-timed, buying him a little bit of time, but there's the epic uppercut, but the final judgment snipes out Mr. Teep. Rewind is good for Transonics. This puts him in a great spot to fight.
He's going to try to find more poke onto Keji. In the process, it's going to be a 4-on-3, and without Scylla for Checo is the new black, that final judgment prevented the I'm a Monster combination off of the epic uppercut. So great play already. That's 2 final judgment kills for Coviiii.
Really, really great play for the mid laner there for my guys. And Coviii's the guy that we haven't really seen in the SCL before. You see Layers, Transonics, Brochacho, Wolves. These are SCL veterans, but it's been Coviiii making the plays so far. Valkyrie's discretion used on this left-hand side. Rotation is coming in. Transonics, remember, didn't have the Sanctuary or the rewind, but just not enough damage there from Keji to find the kill. But yeah, Coviiii has looked very, very strong so far.
That was very smart for Keji not to commit to the kill on Transonics. He used the Valkyrie's discretion, but didn't want to leave his tower because he saw the rotation coming from El Brochacho anyway. And without the rewind, without the Sanctuary, he figured that he still wouldn't have enough damage anyway at this point. It's only a level 12 Freya, doesn't have that much magical power to scale off of that ultimate, so playing it rather safe than sorry.
And that's exactly what he did. He's working into that ring now, going to get that extra a bit of attack speed and damage overall. Whereas you see Transonics, he's going for the Winged Blade as is standard. Going to eat the Feather Step here. Transonics, remember, no Sanctuary, no ultimate ability, but 13 and Blessed just doesn't have the chase down potential because of that movement speed from Accelerate.
Very risky fight also to take. It's a level 10 Awilix against a level 14 Chonos. Now granted, it's still not a late game Chonos full build and doesn't have the relics or the ultimate, but that's not a fight you want necessarily take, especially with the red buff on Transonics.
Brochacho, he's going to take poke yet again. We've seen this one before, but he's going to be okay. Wolves very, very low on this right-hand side as my guys do these right-hand harpies, just sticking around. Looks like he was just waiting to hit level 12 so he could pick up a second relic. I anticipate it's going to be a teleport here.
You could definitely tell my guys are playing so well in sync, as in mid lane now, nowhere to go except for mid lane again. Third time in a row, Coviiii on point with these ultimates.
Just looks so comfortable on this Thoth right now. Wolves back in lane did pick up that teleport, but Coviiii again, love the patience, understanding the 13 in blast is going to have to jump towards his tower there and using that long range ultimate to his advantage.
Third time in a row, Coviiii has been successful with these final judgments. I'm really impressed overall by how my guys has been able to sync up as a unit. Every time somebody might seem out of position, let's say Transonics playing up aggressive against Keji in the dual lane, he's been getting the support that he needs, as well as everybody that's on the right side of the jungle. They've been getting the fire giant elementals together, as well as the right side mid harpies, and those stack up over time.
And that's exactly what you expect from a veteran roster like this. You expect their communication to be on point, and that's one of the things that we saw from my guys last week, that their communication didn't seem to quite be there. It didn't look like they had a leader quite yet, but it seems to me that this week, after a week of scrims and extra practice, they're looking much cleaner.
So far, the only flaw I would see from my guys is the fact that they overcommitted slightly in that solo lane, giving up a Gold Fury, but granted, 7-minute Gold Fury, it's not the worst thing in the world, as long as they're not able to give up the second or third Gold Fury consecutively. They want to make sure that once the solo lane rotations happen, that Wolves is going to be there with the Wrath instead of Niquid.
And Wolves is going to be that late game monster that he seems to be, even on these early game characters like Odin. It seems to be whenever he gets into these fights, he just makes a huge difference, and it's going to be up to Niquid to sort of match that on that Bellona, and I think that that's a pretty good matchup for Niquid overall, because you expect the Bellona to be a little bit more impactful in those mid to late game team fights than even Wolves' Odin.
Wolves could potentially also bait out these team fights, or these little 1v1 boxing skirmishes, because of the global pressure coming from LayersOfLife. And as we head back into the game after this pause, we might even see some of these rotations happen even further, because there's going to be a little bit of a downtime from the Gold Fury, as it has respawned actually.
Niquid forced to use the Eagles Rally to get away from the rotation from Coviiii, level 13. He's 2 levels up on the enemy solo laner, and he's doing a ton of damage because of it. Wolves is able to combine with LayersOfLife and Brochacho to pick up that kill. Now Forger Vulcan locked in the cage. It's exactly what you were talking about, Tolly. Evade and punish, use to get a little bit of damage, and I'm a Monster does nothing but tickle the opposition. Forger Vulcan escapes with his life, but a lot of cooldowns used to make sure he survives.
Great pick off onto Niquid. On top of this, just poking out the Forger Vulcan in the process. It's still level 9 Kumbhakarna with Reinforced Greaves and Sovereignty, so he has a little bit of physical defense, but not that much magical, so a lot of damage being done from both Brochacho and Coviiii in the process.
Especially with Brochacho being level 11 right now. He's matching Niquid in the solo lane in terms of levels. In fact, he's ahead of his own jungler, LayersOfLife. He's only level 10. Middle tower being sieged here. Good damage onto Mr. Teep from a distance with that hammer. Forger Vulcan finds the 4-man Mez to delay the push here. 2-man knockup. Purification actually used there by LayersOfLife, despite the lack of gravity surge, and this is forcing my guys back.
Niquid has respawned. He's in the mid lane. It's going to be a 5-on-5. Brochacho taking a lot of poke. He's trying to retreat. Valkyrie's discretion is not going to allow that to happen. LayersOfLife has to retreat, though. Not too much going on, though, but in the mid lane, it's still going to be a 5-on-4 for Checo.
Big cage. Forger Vulcan's going to go down to the Sleepy Time passive. One more auto attack will do it. He's going to fall, but meanwhile, 13 and Bless is going to pick up LayersOfLife on the backside. Coviiii, speaking of the backside, able to find another kill on the enemy jungler, it looks like, and Transonics
still a 2 for 2.
Trying to find it.
Still a 2 for 2, but it seems that the health advantage favoring my guys as they're able to put pressure onto this mid-tier 1 tower. Still, though, Keji taking a boxing match, getting a nice double whoop. This could set up a crush opportunity, but Coviiii getting destroyed
the
by
two-man stun, though, by Transonics is going to buy him a lot of time. Mr. Teep thinking about sentling in right now. You can see it on his face. He wants it, but Transonics with that winged blade just a little too quick, and that looks like a great fight for my guys. They get that tier 1 tower, but then Coviiii goes in and tries to box the Freya, and at this stage in the game, Freya's finished off that demonic grip. He's got the Talon trinket as well. That's a lot of damage available to Keji right now, and Coviiii found that out firsthand.
Absolutely, and they were relying very heavily on the sustain from Brochacho just to be able to continuously siege that tier 1 mid tower, but unfortunately, they used a lot of cooldowns killing Niquid on the right-hand side, so by the time he came back in the mid lane, there was just everything favoring out for Checo.
Wolves pulled in from the gravity surge. Stun is going to not find find a home there from Transonics. Brochacho still pretty low, gonna take a little bit more damage from Nikwid. The two-man whoop directly into the crush. Mr. Teep erases the support player for my guys. 1 for 0 in favor of Checo as the new black so far. Layers of Life up in the sky, looking at Forger Vulcan. Not gonna be able to find it directly into the epic uppercut.
The root.
Crush. Dead. Mr. Teep finds his second kill. Transonics, he doesn't want to let it go.
Transonics wants more, but he's going to get root during the Alma Monster, not finding the kill. And now we see Awilix having to run for his life. Coviiii really wants it. So does the speed buff Wolves. They want to chase this down, but the blink is going to get him out of danger. It's going to be a 2 for nothing as El Brochacho actually just now reviving.
Transonics still looking for Nikwid. The crush over the wall does a ton of damage. Finally, Nikwid's going to fall. Trans does pick up that kill. Keji decides he wants to fight and he wants to take down Wolves. One goes down. Valkyrie's discretion now forces out the Sanctuary from Transonics. Teep is here yet again, but the minions eat that crush and sick combination. Overall, a pretty even fight there.
Level 16 Freya at the 16-minute mark. This is where it's going to get really dangerous for my guys. They cannot allow this Freya to start freely casting any in-hands, even though Transonics can definitely keep up with it, and that's exactly what we're going to see out of him. He's just not going to hesitate to try to penetrate that backline and get off that damage. We see it time and time again just how aggressive Transonics can be.
So aggressive. That's his playstyle, Tully. He comes around the back and tries to get onto your backline immediately. He's not your traditional hunter staying behind the support, trying to play conservatively and wait for his time. He says, it's my time. Now, he tells you when it's his opportunity to make plays.
And once these plays are starting to happen as the game progresses, these respawn timers are going to start getting longer and longer. It's going to give the teams more of an opportunity to start squeezing in some of these objectives. More importantly, the goal here is going to be looking mighty tempting very soon.
Wolves still working on his wing blade, whereas Nikwid has finished his off, and that's going to give him slow immunity right there from the slow from Odin. But on the left-hand side, like you mentioned, Gold Fury is the focus for my guys, at least in terms of warding, and it looks like they're the ones with vision control. No, actually, it's Checo as the new black. They're the one who have the sentries on the Gold Fury.
They have so many around that triangular formation, but in the mid lane, we're gonna find the Mez into the root, gonna sustain it a little bit. The pull is gonna catch Forger Vulcan with the ultimate. Coviiii charging up, final judgment, but not really wanting to commit on a level 10 Kumbhakarna.
Yeah, a little bit of miscommunication there between Brochacho and the rest of his team. He wanted to go in on Forger Vulcan knowing that dash was down, but without Layers of Life in range to use that Anvil of Dawn, just not enough lockdown potential for that tanky Kumbhakarna. Speed buff secured there for Checo as the new black. 13 in Blast. He's had a pretty good game, 2-2-5 right now. But on the left-hand side, again, Gold Fury started up.
And now Keji's caught out of position, forced into the double relics. Layers of Life having to go into the sky, but Brochacho getting absolutely wiped off the map. But in the process, Forger Vulcan in the sleepy time, but they're focusing out Keji instead.
So much damage. Valkyrie's discretion going to buy him a little bit of time off. I'm a monster off the mark, over the wall, but Keji still boxing in the jungle, doing so much damage, but not enough to save his own life. Layers of Life gonna take the life of Keji. I just said life 14 times. 13 in Blast. He's gonna do a little bit of damage to Coviiii, force out that purification, but not quite find the kill. 1 for 1 there, or 2 for 1 rather. Forger Vulcan ended up falling as well, but Brochacho is just so far forward of the rest of his team, basically in every engagement so far.
I like the thought process that my guys had, because they had Wolves bait out the speed bump, but hold that thought. Nikwid's gonna get focused out here in the in the jungle side here around the gold here. Transonics doing a perfectly timed Sanctuary, preventing that feather step.
Wolves teleporting in just made such a big difference in this engagement, and he's doing so much damage. Nikwid just going to be able to get out by the skin of his teeth. Transonics actually gets blinked on there by 13 and Blessed, but he doesn't have enough mana to use feather step, I don't think.
It doesn't even matter whether or not he had it. We see that the rewind is still available for Transonics if he wants to be able to use that. He hasn't been pressured in that last team fight whatsoever, and Gold Fury has been started yet again from my guys. They want to be able to really put pressure here without anybody from Checo's the new black.
Both rats available for solo laners. Nikwid has to teleport into the tower. That's his only option right now. Coviiii actually dashes in to try and zone away the enemy team. Gold Fury does go the way of my guys. Layers of Life up into the sky, looking to come down on someone. Not gonna be able to find it. Coviiii actually falls to Keji. He's been a problem right now that my guys can't seem to handle. Layers does pick up his jungler opposition. Transonics is the focus. There's I'm a Monster over the wall, gets the reset on Brochacho, as well as hits Wolves for a big chunk of damage. Second one not going to find a home, though, and the chase is on for the Soul
Two
Layer.
for one so far in the favor of Checo's the new black. They need more, though, because they lost the Gold Fury, so they have to be able to at least get this tier 1 tower. They see Wolves retreating under the tier 1 tower. They know LayersOfLife is somewhere around the jungle side. They even see Transonics in the mid lane, so they have to group up, get this tower, or at least defend their tier 2 tower, because Transonics on this Chonos level 18 now could easily melt away these objectives.
Very much so, and that's the one thing that Chonos brings to the late game that Freya does not in this magical hunter category is the tower shred capability of Chonos, whereas Freya definitely lacking that department. Not lacking in the damage department, however, though. Keji has looked absolutely so strong. Layers just stayed way too long in the enemy jungle. He's got nowhere to go, no mana left, even if he has his ultimate. I don't
The hammer, he barely had enough mana, but 13 of Blessed finds the Suku through the wall, just enough damage to find that kill. Overstaying his welcome for sure, but you have to give it up to him, trying to min-max any sort of potential farm he could, because he actually thought that everyone from Checo is the new black was going to be able to split push on the left-hand side, giving him that opportunity to strip away the back Harpies.
Yeah, love the idea to steal away the red buff whenever Checo is a new black loses sight of him in their jungle as they start to push an objective, but like you mentioned, just staying way too long for the back Harpies, a little bit too greedy there, and that's going to spend his death. Forger Vulcan going to get his back stopped here by Coviiii, but with the Mez and the lack of rotations, he's going to be just fine. Meanwhile, on the left-hand side, Wolves able to pick up that tier 1 tower, and it looks like get out safely.
The pull onto Vulcan, not really finding the root stun combination. Final Judgment, though, connects. It's up to Transonics to find the kill, but with that knockup and the Feather Step root, Wolves now trying to find Forger Vulcan.
Forger's escaped southward into the middle lane. Great pathing by him. Transonics, though, wants to keep on fighting. Wolves drops the cage, but he's pretty low. Gonna have to rely on that heal. Big damage there from I'm a Monster, but not enough to finish off Coviiii. Layers. He's up in the sky, looking for the dunk, waiting for the enemy team to group up, but the call is to retreat. He's going to come down safely into his team's arms.
You got to respect the call, but Transonics, he has no respect for Checo as the new black, as he's in position for 1v4. The rest of the team is basically sustaining off of the Sylvanus Wisps, and that's what you have to do. Play to your strengths. You know, obviously disrupting the backline would have been so beneficial for LayersOfLife, especially with Transonics grouping up. But utilizing the Sylvanus sustaining and just grouping up as 5 is better in the long term.
We were talking about it during the break, and I was saying that it looked like my guys had found their voice, had found their cohesive calling, but it seems to be a little bit different now after that pause. You see Transonics stepping up and wanting to go in. Layers, he's up in the sky, doesn't know where to go, and ends up coming back down into the safety of his team. Still not quite on the same page with all these veterans.
You could just tell the confidence from Transonics. He had both of his relics up, he had his ultimate. That's why he's in that position to 1v4. Now he's going to be in another 1v3 position on the left-hand side.
Sanctuary going to buy him a minute there, but the crush is well timed to make sure he's going to fall. 13 and Blessed picks up his 4th kill. Again, that's Reminisced, formerly on Elevate, who came here to land with that squad. With Transonics taking his first death, this opens up the left-hand side for a push. LayersOfLife doesn't have his ultimate yet, and Niquid zoning him out. Hold that. He actually does with courtesy of all that CDR. He's looking for the dunk. He's only going to find one, and it's Reminisce. There's the I'm a Monster, but Sanctuary for Coviiii is good to save his life for now. Not quite enough damage to finish off this push.
He's going to try to find it. Finds the hit, but only doing half the damage. Mr. Teep, though, is going to basically trade out, though, killing Coviiii, and that's going to be a 5-on-3. Transonics is going to respawn in 15 seconds. But Forger Vulcan is stuck in that wall tower, not able to finish it off. Wolves was thinking about going in, but now he's going to have to retreat back under his tier 1 tower. And now LayersOfLife forcing out Mr. Teep, going to stun him out. Brochacho, he needs to find the root in the pull, but Niquid is not going to make his life any easier.
Layers still going in for Mr. Teep, but actually gets his hammer interrupted by the Mez from Forger Vulcan. The speed buff allows him to catch up to the enemy mid laner, resetting those Doom Orb stacks down to 25 rather. Niquid still here, but so low on mana.
The knock up, the Feather Step, finding the kill onto Brochacho. This is what happens when you stay too long. 13 and Bless got poked out. He had to back, reset, come back into the team fight. Same thing goes with Keji. He was putting pressure on as well. So now he's going to be in another 1v2 spot as Transonics, thinking about going in, finding the stun. Knockup's not going to find its home.
And 13 and Bless has made some really impactful blinks so far, this game, saving his own life, getting the kill there onto Brochacho. LayersOfLife up in the sky, looking to defend this Gold Fury. Checo, as the new Black, seems to know this is happening and is going to back off, but the full commit onto Forger Vulcan. That's level 13 Kumbhakarna, and he is tanky. Epic Uppercut going to buy him a little bit of time for now, and Layers, he's going to need some time bot for himself until that Mjolnir's at 2 minutes up. Valkyrie's discretion used there by Keji, just a little bit off the mark.
Very premature. Wolf's going to get knocked up. The Feather Step yet again. Missing out the bludgeon, though. The Scourge finding its home. Just needs one more hit. The jump is going to get him out into safety, but no safety goes for LayersOfLife as Keji finds that last hit.
2-man knock up there for Brochacho. Everyone's looking at Keji. He's got no ultimate, but he's got both relics. At least he had them. Now they're on cooldown for the next 2.5 minutes plus. Another one falls there, and it's LayersOfLife in the jungle.
Despite 5-on-4 advantage for Checo as the new Black, the sustain is still there for my guys, and they can still fight into this. It's a level 20 Chonos with Rod of Tahuti, red buff to boot, and that's going to be a lot of damage in these team fights, especially without any relics onto Keji. If they find that one pick, there goes all the DPS for Checo as the new Black.
And he's been the one that's really shining for Checo as the new Black this game. I've talked about 13 and Blessed. He's had some good blinks and good impact there, and then Mr. Teep in the middle lane has had some solid monsters, plus good follow-up off Forger Vulcan CC, but it's been Keji bringing in the most of this damage. If we can take a look at the player damage charts there, it is going to be him on top for his team, only topped by Transonics, and that's no surprise considering how aggressive Transonics is
and
playing.
Looking where Coviiii is as well, right underneath that, hitting all those final judgments have been so key to my guys. Those long-distance snipes are not easy to hit, especially the timing of it, but now the timing of this goal here couldn't be any more perfect because nobody is here from my guys.
Really curious decision there. A veteran team, not used to seeing them give up easy Gold Furies like that. They're all doing a blue buff on the right-hand side, and as such, it gives up that Gold Fury. Blink there again from 13 and Blessed, gonna get him out of that Anvil of Dawn from Layers of Death. Keji has to be careful here. Remember, he has no relics. Meanwhile, Nikwid, he's just fighting two on the backside, trying to keep out this damage-dealing Coviiii for my guys.
That's what you're trying to do as a solo laner, but too aggressive, 1v5. Everybody else was getting zoned away from Transonics and LayersOfLife. Those are two gods that control a lot of space between the tectonic rift, between the slow time. You have to be able to position yourselves to not get stunned by those, but it's hard to kind of go through a wall when you don't have Phantom, obviously. So buying enough time to really find the kill on an out-of-position Nikwid.
And now Wrath available here for Wolves, and Nikwid, he's on the bench right now for 25 seconds. He's got to hold that L, and there's the cage coming down from Wolves, trying to make sure to keep everyone out of this Fire Giant pit. Fire Giant getting very low. Transonics gonna use the rerun. Epic Uppercut onto the enemy solo laner is gonna buy them time, but not enough. Fire Giant goes the way of my guys.
Damage.
Final Judgment doing so much. Layers gonna finish off Keji for the kill.
Another Final Judgment making a huge impact. 13 and Blessed trying to run away. Transonics wants to be able to chase this down. He has the speed necessary. He has the damage.
Autos.
3 shots, no problem. He needs a time rift here. Needs to respect the fact that Nikwid is right around the corner. So overall, 2-for-0 and Fire Giant going to the way of my guys.
And now the tier 2 tower is gonna fall as well, and it all comes back to that over-aggression from Nikwid by the blue buff. Opens the door for my guys to really blow it wide open in their favor. Now the Phoenix being looked at. Remember, Transonics, he's got that tower shredding capability. Wolves leaps in on top of Mr. Teep, doing a decent amount of damage to him, forcing him back. Transonics is focusing down that Phoenix, but it's not falling quite low enough. I'm a Monster gonna do a decent amount of damage to Brochacho. Not enough to find the kill, but the crush will do it. That'll spell the end for Brochacho, but Coviii's gonna pick up Nikwid in response.
Not finding the sustain now any longer without the Sylvanus onto El Brochacho. Final Judgment was being charged there, tempting, very tempting there to try to dive that Phoenix. It was half health. Now it was a 5-on-3 advantage. Overall, great hold from Checo is the new Black, being able to stop the Fire Giant team out of my guys.
And now the tier 2 tower, I think they were considering it for a moment, but my guys, with Wolves being so low, without that sustain from Brochacho, they're going to back up. They've got plenty of time left on this Fire Giant, about 2.5 minutes to go before that buff runs out. So they've got plenty of time to push down these remaining towers.
29 minutes into the game. So far, it's still looking pretty good for Checo is the new Black. Considering my guys has finished first last week, you know, we've seen improvements from them from previous week to this week, but they're still running into a little bit of a wall here from Checo is the new Black. It doesn't matter what Checo it is, between saving Private Checo or the new Black Checo. there's still some complications, I would say, for my guys in terms of closing out games.
Absolutely. And again, it's Brochacho. He had such a big lead on Forger Vulcan in the early stages of the game. He was 2 levels up, but now he's a level down, level 14. 6 deaths on Brochacho. Do you think this is a matter of the team not following up on where he wants to be, or him just being too far forward?
I think it's a little bit of a combination of both, honestly. It's more of him being out of position than anything else. Obviously, his build was a little bit staggered as well. He didn't have sovereignty right away in his build, as he preferred to go for a more utility style with the MP5 for team fights, which benefits his teammates more than it does himself, as well as the Lotus Crown. So not having that HP5 means every time he gets poked out, despite himself having the Wisps, he doesn't have that aura up until later in the game, which is why he had so many deaths in the earlier stages.
You can see the Witchblade being picked up here. That's trying to reduce that attack speed coming out of Keji, as well as that of 13 and Blast. And Nikwid. Nikwid is Bellona, pretty solid auto attack character in the later stages of the game, though he hasn't gone for a Frostbound Hammer, which is usually what you see. Wouldn't be surprised to see that be the 6th item pickup for the solo lane Bellona. Tier 2 tower on the left side falls to the Fire Giant squad of my guys. Tier 2 tower in middle is going to be the next one. No contention whatsoever from Checo as the new black. Willing to give up their towers this stage in the game, but not the Phoenixes, and my guys knows that, and they're going to back up.
A very smart idea for my guys to ignore the right side Phoenix push just to be able to confirm the guaranteed tier 2 towers. They still had that buff for about 1 minute as they pushed at the left-hand side at first, and this is what you want to do. You want to make the Titan more vulnerable for that final push. You don't want to give anything back to Checo as a new black in case, let's say, for example, they find 3 kills, they get 2 Phoenixes, they go into that Titan room, and then all of a sudden there's still that 1 tower remaining on the left-hand side, and then they left it at 2% health or whatever. Then they're going to be looking back at the game like, man, we should have got that tower. Now we know we have to play it more slow and steady.
And you could see there's actually a problem for Checo as a new black, because like we mentioned earlier on, Freya tower push, not particularly strong, and look at how many towers are remaining for my guys. Even if Checo's the new black is able to find a deicide at this stage in the game, I'm not sure they have the straight up objective damage to push down the towers, Phoenixes, and end the game.
It's going to take a long time to start pushing it down, especially considering the fact that my guys is probably going to, if they do get decided, it'll be probably at the Phoenix or the Titan room. So be able to go from your Titan room to the enemy's Titan room will not only take a long time, but to be able to also kill that Titan with all these towers up is not going to be easy for Checo as the new black.
Not at all. Speed buff invade here, just trying to steal away any sort of farm they can from the opposition. Transonics, he's in the front line yet again. There's Valkyrie's Discretion trying to finish off the enemy hunter, and they will find him. Keji with that damage, but Coviiii doing so much. Layers gonna dunk down. He's gonna find one. Next to fall is Mr. Teep. 3 dead already for Checo as the new black, and that was a quick team fight going the way of my guys.
No more magical damage on the side of Checo as the new black. There goes the Scylla. There goes the Freya. Even their jungler is gone now. It's all up to this Kumbhakarna and Bellona to stop the Fire Giant potentially, but if they lose their lives in the process, then their Titan is going to be left completely exposed. These respawn timers are going to take quite a while. 30 seconds for 13 and Blessed. The only thing that they have going for them is the fact that Transonics is not alive.
Nikwid, he has the Wrath, and that's why you see my guys know they have to kill this solo laner if they're going to try and get this Fire Giant down. There's the double tap over the wall. The slow is good from Wolves. Nikwid, he's got no more HP. He is going to fall to Coviiii. His 8th kill for the Thoth in the middle lane. Now only 1 remaining, and it's Forger Vulcan on this Kumbhakarna. That's a tall task to ask for your support player to steal away a Fire Giant.
He has to time the epic uppercut perfectly to try to steal away this one. It's also going to be against the Wrath coming out of Wolves, so making it even that much harder. And now, my guys, 4-on-1. The epic uppercut going to be on the backhand side, just trying to find maybe a pick onto Coviiii instead.
The Wrath's going to come through any second now. There it is for Wolves. All 5 members get that Fire Giant buff. Transonics had respawns, and so he's going to have that as well, upping that tower push capability. Cage goes down from Wolves, trying to find the kill on a Forger Vulcan there, but that's such a short cooldown. Even though it's wasted, it doesn't really matter.
With Breastplate of Valor, it's very short cooldown, less than 1 minute. By the time they back by, get everything that they need for this final push, it'll be back up for the Phoenix Sieges. Second Fire Giant of the game going to my guys with an 8,000 gold lead heading into the 34-minute mark. They're looking to close out this first game of the best of 3 set in the second week, trying to get an additional 100 points to just to be able to get to the relegations where they'll be against Elevate and Kingdom.
So this is what you usually see from veteran teams, totally. Up against these newcomers, it can be a close game. It's very, very close throughout the mid game, but it's one team fight that just goes overwhelmingly in the veterans' favor. It's because they've been there, they've done that before, they've been in these sorts of situations. Is this what you expected out of my guys? Is that team fight what you were waiting for?
They know how to capitalize any advantages you give to them, whereas we saw Checo as the new black. They found a very early pick onto Transonics right off the get-go, but then they just grouped up too close to whereas LayersOfLife really punished both the Freya and the Scylla. And without those two late game magical damage dealers, you cannot continue to team fight, which is why we saw my guys just be able to get their second fire gen for free.
Nice meds there, gonna find 4. Roma and Victor over the top, doing damage to the back line, but it's not quite enough. Layers, he's going up into the sky. Keji's already used his ultimate. I'm a monster down as well. Coviiii gonna delete Freya with that final judgment. Brochacho's so low, but he's still alive. Transonics picks up Forger Vulcan. Transonics underneath the Phoenix, still trying to find the kills. Rewind gonna buy his entire health bar back. 13 and Bless is gonna fall as well as only Mr. Teep against 5 members of my guys with Fire Giant. I think that's gonna do it totally.
He wants the 5th kill. He's not gonna be able to really commit to this. The first game going in the way of my guys. They're just one more game away from having a flawless record in these open brackets as Mr. T finds a kill, but it doesn't matter. And now, Checo is the new black. They still need to find some wins if they don't want to run into a tiebreaker situation against saving Private Checo.
That's exactly right. Checo is the new black. They need to win this set if they want to avoid the tiebreaker, like Tolly just mentioned. But my guys, like we said, I mean, it's so close throughout the majority of that game, but it's just that veteran leadership leads them to that one team fight, and it all kind of falls apart from there. Another Fire Giant going
Can we talk about the snipes from Coviiii? I think he found 3 guaranteed kills, and then he hit maybe 3 additional ones, just chunking out so many members from Checo, and they couldn't even continue these team fights, and he didn't even fully charge some of them. He knew how much damage he really needed to confirm the kills.
This just so on point with these ultimates every single time, and it was such a big deal for my guys because they didn't have a ton of long-range damage. They were really relying on Coviiii to be that long-range artillery damage dealer, and he filled that role perfectly. I think he ended with 8 or 9 kills in the last fight, just deleting Keji off the map with that final judgment.
And LayersOfLife has just been doing fantastic on this store, something that we've known from him time and time again with these global pressure gods. He goes into the sky, he knows which target is the most vulnerable, and despite him basically still being on the same pace as Liquid despite the early kill, he's always been making a huge impact.
Very much so. You can just see he engages with the double tap and then goes up into the sky to make sure that he can get a good vantage point on the fight, see exactly what target is the right one to go for. And I think that my guys is only going to get better as time goes on, still trying to find their footing as far as who shot calls they're listening to, where they want to prioritize, because you've got a ton of carries on this team. Coviiii has absolutely proved that he's got carry potential in that middle lane. And of course, you've got Transonics in duo, you've got Wolves in solo, and LayersOfLife, he was the carry on Aware whenever he was on that team. So it's kind of difficult to find your identity when you've got that much play banking potential on one squad.
And you can tell his discipline has definitely changed as well. That one time around the Fire Giant where he didn't want to commit to that Thor ultimate, despite Transonics was basically 1v5ing by himself.
Transonics always wants to commit to the fight. Make no bones about it. We're about to